Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. This is the mobile service panel hosted by myKaarma, myKaarma.com. I'd like to welcome back to the Roundtable our great friends. First, the anchor, Ed Roberts, Robert Stage, and Mark Mickens. Gentlemen, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thank you, Ted. Glad to be back.
Thanks,
Here
Ted.
we are. Gentlemen, we are, coming into the holiday season. Thanksgiving is next week. We got about, Ed, maybe 6-7 weeks left in the year. A lot of dealers looking at their plans for next year. Some dealers have gotten into mobile. Some are still thinking about it. Some are getting their plans ready. Let's talk about 2023 and how mobile enters into the equation, or continues to grow, I should say, into the plan. Ed, what are some of the things we should be looking at about now?
A lot of people ask me all the time, how do you make mobile profitable, or is it profitable? And it's all about meeting our customers on their terms. And let's look at the season that we're in right now. We just rolled into the holiday season, and we got Thanksgiving coming up on us, and then Christmas and New Year's after that. And people's schedule is busy. They're out shopping. They're out doing all the things. They got family coming into town. They're preparing for that. They don't have time to come into the dealership to get their vehicle serviced. Those type of situations allows us to enhance mobile service and be able to meet them on their terms, rather than force them to come in and go through our process and let their vehicle sit there for 2 or 3 days or a week or whatever it may be before somebody even looks at it. When we can go out and meet them, then we create a loyalty. And we're rolling 8 mobile trucks right now, and we're constantly doing different things to build trip value. I was talking to someone a couple of weeks ago about maybe batteries for life, where it's another fee for something there, but just different things. Or just look outside the box and try to find things to build value and to build loyalty to you, to where they come, you're the only person they call when they need service or a vehicle. And with mobile, there's it's wide open. We got 2023 in front of us. Some people's embracing it, some people's not. And if you're not, walk through your shop and question whether these guys can do the service outside of here, or if it has to be in the building. And you will find a laundry list of stuff that you can do outside. And when you do that, you can start building that value that you need with mobile.
Ed, I wrote down a new term I just learned from you, trip value. I had not heard that before. I don't know about you, Mark. It's the first time I've heard Ed Roberts mention that. Ed, talk to us a little bit more about that trip value, because I think that's something to hone in on, especially when people ask about profitability. And I know they've asked Mark before about how that pencils.
So with mobile service, there's no walk-ins. It's all planned. You know where you're going, whether it's a missed appointment that you're going to see today that missed yesterday, or whether you're going to put a part on that you've ordered for a customer or whatever it may be. You know what you're going to do. It's all planned. So you know the vehicles you're going to see, you know the miles that's on them. You can take the things to go with it. So when you do the inspection, you don't have to come back to it. You can take your air filters, your cabin filters, all the things that you can do. Take a battery with you of the things that you're going to test on. But also in the mix to that, look through your SOP parts. You know your destination now. Look and see if there's some stops that you can add in along the way. Look at the other dealers around you, the recalls that they have on the lot. Load your truck with those recall parts so that you can stop at those places en route to your customer or on the way back from them. Just anything you can do to build value, because just going windshield to the customer's place and windshield back to the dealership isn't necessarily maximizing production.
Ed Roberts is very intentional about it, Robert. He's right. We are coming into a very busy time of year. People have plans. They're doing stuff. They're out again. They're shopping. They do have family coming in, and they still need to have their cars and trucks serviced. Robert, talk to us a little bit about what you're seeing, what you're doing, and maybe about that trip value as well.
Absolutely. One of the things that I want to glom on a little bit to what Ed said was basically appointments. And I'm the same way. I don't offer any type of emergency style service. Mine is all appointment only. And I like to say it's custom appointment, because I'm able to go to someone's vehicle at 5 or 6 p.m. in the evening and work, after they've come back home from work, those types of things. And dealerships, a lot of those are running 3 shifts now to keep vehicles moving in the service areas. And, being in the aftermarket, it's kind of easier for me to go and do that, because, it's a lot less overhead cost in doing it as an individual. But the custom appointment thing, I think, is really somewhere where the dealerships can shine. It's something that they can grab onto and hold on to, and be able to go out to someone's house like Ed was saying, if you can throw a couple extra appointments in the middle, it's more efficient, of course, and you're going to get more money back. But going out and to someone's house, I mean, as everyone can see, I'm wearing my uniform today, and this one, after we're done here today, I have to go and do a brake job. So it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon for a brake job, and a diagnostic after that. So it's one of those things where if you can put yourself in your customer's shoes first and then go to their home, and feel the way that they feel, that custom appointment is something that they would really love to have. I think it brings a big value to the dealership if they're able to do that.
And I think, Robert, it brings great value as well to our audience. I want to talk to you about that trip value. First of all, you are Stage 1 Mobile Diagnostic and Repair. You are in Ohio. You run your own service, if you will, your own platform. You've been building
Correct.
that out. A lot of people have been watching you do this, Robert. Talk to us about that average ticket value, if you're willing to share that, because I was amazed with some of the
Sure.
stats that you and I talked about offline as far as your trip value.
Sure. So the other day, I actually went into my sales side to see what my reporting was, and being individual, I don't have to keep my eyes on all those things. I have certain bills that have to be met every month, like everyone else does. But I wanted to go and find out because of this panel, and I thought you may actually ask for it. $567 per ticket average right now per RO. And when I was a service director at Jaguar and Land Rover, we struggled to get $390, a average ticket. So I feel like, we're doing really well. We're growing. We're taking on new customers all the time. We're getting out to people's homes. I do all types of estimates, either text, I do estimates over the phone. It's just amazing. And customers really, they really do enjoy that. And it benefits everybody. I mean, it's beneficial to all parties that are involved. I think it brings really good value. Looks like Ed's getting ready to explode over there.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a minute because we talk about the dealership RO value. We can't get it up to where we want it to be, but a customer
Right.
equates that sale or whatever we're asking for as time, and they don't have the additional time to spend with you at the dealership.
Right.
But when you're
Right.
there and you're servicing them there, then they're more apt to do it. They want to take care of their vehicle. That's why they called you to begin with. That's why they came to you to begin with. But now you got to meet them to where it works for them.
Absolutely. I like to say that the best waiting room in the world is someone in their own home on their couch watching TV in their pajamas. And
Absolutely.
honestly, that's the best way to do it.
And
And
that's what
with
drives RO
COVID, it
value.
happened, and right, and it drives the RO value way up. I'm able to do automotive inspections. I had a gentleman call me out of South Carolina one time. He was looking at a Lamborghini Gallardo at a CarMax, no less. And I got clearance and was able to come in and look at the vehicle and took, like 100 pictures of it, all the different things that I found on it, was able to scan the vehicle, got him a report, called the original dealership that had just looked at it and found out that it needed $24,000 differential for the rear end of it. The hull dex was bad, and it's like you don't get that type of service everywhere. It's difficult to get someone that knows how to do your oil change nowadays, let alone someone that can go in and look at a vehicle, especially of that value, and give someone a very detailed report of what's actually wrong with the car. Should you put your $100,000 down to buy this used Lamborghini? So
And Ed, one of the ways that I kind of measure this panel is there are so many, and Ed, I think you'll appreciate this. There are so many companies who've been watching this panel over the past few months, the past year or two, who have been reaching out to Robert and saying, "Hey, we've got this technology, that technology. Would you pioneer our technology out on your mobile truck? Would you?" Because they want to take this thing out and take it further. They're admiring the work that Robert's doing, and listen to that. Mark Mickens, listen to that ticket value that Robert's got going with Stage 1 Mobile Diagnostic.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of limitless if you do it the right way. I want to attach the trip value conversation to Ed in a little bit of a different way on some of the research I'm doing now and what we're trying to implement. One of the things that never gets measured on value when it comes to mobile service and convenience for the customer is that they're used to every other kind of commerce that they're doing to be, at their fingertips, right? Amazon, you can go right down the line. One of the few things in their life that still isn't convenient is getting their car repaired, right? So I'm going to build on something that Ed talked about, like SOP parts and recalls. If you're worried about your surveys and you're worried about your customer satisfaction, the number one thing that drops off on a survey and the customers get the most upset about is when they have to come back a second time when they've already been there one time. So, we found, again, in the research that we're doing, it doesn't matter what the manufacturer is, that if you had to order a part and you could say to the customer, don't worry about it. When the part comes in, I'll send my mobile truck over and we'll put it in your driveway, that your survey value is going to go out the roof. So instead of worrying about how something really pencils or pens, if you value your customer, and you value the satisfaction, that may not show up in your net profit column, but it's going to show up in your net profit column at some point, right? So I really think that, when somebody says, well, how do I get started in this? There's things all over your dealership that you can get started in, get a recall list, get an SOP list, and get your truck on the road and start doing something, I obviously work in the manufacturing world of mobile service, but I use Robert as an example all the time. There's every manufacturer right now is out there, trying to put together, a mobile service package of training and implementation and launch and rollout. And Ed's been through this, right? So everybody's trying to do it, and I applaud some of the manufacturers on what they're trying to do. But when it gets to the launch stage, it really has to be embraced by the people that own the store, the executive management in the store, the management of the store, to make it work. I use Robert as an example all the time in corporate meetings. I know this guy, right? That just, has a book of business this big because he just goes out and does it every day, right? He doesn't worry about how it's going to pencil, right? He just goes out and does it. And now look where he is, right? So I just think you have to have the initiative and the want to, and really the commitment from the executive management in your dealership that to really embrace this and know that it's coming. Somebody's going to be doing it. Robert's out there doing it. I mean, if you want to share how big a book of business you have, Robert, go ahead, because I know it's pretty large, and that's your business. And
just under six. Right, just under 600 clients so far,
which is
over
amazing, right?
2 years, 2.5 years.
Right. So that was somebody else's business at one point, and you just made it more convenient for the customer. So now it's your business, right? So I want to.
I'll say a lot of those people are repeat customers too. That's the best part.
Sure.
Once you get them, you retain them.
I mean, I would say
it works out great.
From my experience, once you used it once, you try to always use it again. And I know, Ed, you can jump in and that's how you build it. But I think the biggest hurdle that I'll speak to a dealership atmosphere, that I think the biggest hurdle that an investor, a dealer principal, or even a big group, that you have to get over that first mind hurdle of, I'm not going to make money in the first maybe month or two until I get this thing rolling, but I will start building customer satisfaction, and there is a down the road value to that. So my advice is it's like building a brand new service facility, right? You're investing first. You're not, nobody builds a brand new dealership and says, how much money am I going to make in the first month? They don't do that, right? I know I didn't do that when we built ours. So I just think that that's the mental hurdle that somebody has to get over to really be successful in this, because I just see it going boom, and it's going to be big.
Well, Robert told us he has 2 appointments this afternoon, so we know what that is. And then he also told us that his average RO is $567.
That's amazing.
So, and he's an independent.
Right.
So here we are doing it at the dealership level. Robert's out there doing it at the independent level. Mark, you're out there helping dealers see the big picture. I mean, the opportunities are endless.
Yes. Well, I always say, Robert, respectfully, Robert, you're an entrepreneur, and you're not afraid. And I really just think that people just have to be more, entrepreneurial and get out there and not be afraid, and it's going to work, and all due respect to some dealers, there's some programs out there that shall remain nameless that weren't very well done in the beginning of this. So it needs to be redone and rethought. But as an individual dealer or dealer group, you have to be more like Robert and less like something on a slide deck, in my opinion.
Well, it's not.
Mark, Ed, I'm just thinking all of you gentlemen are saying the same thing, and Ed has said this on some other panels at this event, that once you become, Ed, a mobile customer, you're not going back the other way. That just becomes the repeat and referral, and that is where it stays, Ed.
Well, and like Mark said, it's not a one size fits all. We all have to meet our customers. We got to meet our clientele. We got to find what their needs are, whether it's fleets, whether it's exotic car, whatever it may be. We have to meet them. So yes, it isn't something where somebody can come in and say, this is how you have to do it. You got to design it around what works for you. But let's look at that from another aspect, because as being tied to a Ford brand, we have huge fleets. And if a fleet customer needs to send his vehicle in, he's got to send a driver down with it, probably the person that works in that vehicle. So it stops his production. He's got to pay him while he sits in my waiting room for us to service his vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
We service his vehicle. All that time is downtime for him. And then we give it back to the driver, and he heads back to where he would take in his first stop. So they've lost 3 or 4 hours of production. And they had to get their vehicles. When we can go to them and service their vehicles during a meeting or whatever else, there's 0 downtime. So we win, our clients win, and then we capture that fleet business as it's time to replace some of those other models that they may have, with the next model being a Ford, because I'll service all their models that they have, no matter what they are. But when I do that and I minimize their downtime, it's going to get to where they only have one brand, because that's when I give them the fastest service on.
And I'm going to give you an opportunity, Ford dealers especially, because I just did I recently just did a panel with a group of 20 HVAC owners, HVAC repair owners. They asked me to come in and help them with something. And when I got there, I found that, the total count in this HVAC group of 20 dealers was close to 600 vehicles. Okay. And these gentlemen had been in a group where they were rolling the vehicles over on a lease program, through Ford Motor Company, every 3 years. So the big major services and things like that never really came into question. And by the time something like that would come into play, they would have already have rolled, a quarter of their fleet out. So now you can't just call up and say, I need 16 vans, because you ain't getting them. Right. So now the worms really turned to a certain point where, how am I going to get my 62 vans into a Ford dealer to have them serviced efficiently? And to your point, Ed, the gentleman that was doing the speaking said that it cost him $70 an hour to send the van to and from the dealership, right? So I said, well, how about if, you line up 3 vans in your at your parking lot, and we come and service them there? And they said, well, you can do that. Well, yeah, I can. And I think if you're a Ford dealer in particular, anybody that's on this, you could do that, tomorrow and make it work for yourself. Right. So where it's really dropped off on one side of the business, right? So you've lost van sales, and you're pretty much, I don't think 23 is going to look anything different than 22 from what, the forecast in the industry that I've seen. So that's an advantage right there. Find the local fleets in your area of responsibility and try it, try it, because it's business you don't have right now. Right.
Absolutely. And a lot of times people ask, how can you make money changing people's oil? I have to circle back to what Robert said earlier. Average RO value. That's not for an oil change. We might do them out there, but that's not the core business. It's
just like your shop. People come in, they do their first service with you. That's great. You do it efficiently. It's a great place to come. They get used to it. They know their service advisor, and they'll come back for the tires and the brakes. And listen, it's the same strategy. Go out and do a couple of oil changes, and one of those vans that I just discussed is going to need a lot more than that someday, that you're going to be able to do at the same location. So you're building the same value. It doesn't matter. And it's even a better value, right? Because you're taking something out of their day that they really don't know. They don't know how to do it, and they don't want to do it.
And enhancing the ownership experience.
Yes.
And you're right. You're eliminating the time excuse, because typically the top 2 excuses are what? Money and time, right? Yeah. So, Mark, you're eliminating number 2 right out of the gate. That time is no longer. In fact, yeah, I'm glad you're here. Let's take care of it. I mean, that's out of the equation already.
But out of those 20 businessmen, I will tell you this right now, that I was in that room for 2 hours, and how much it costs never came up. So just, let that sink in for a little. Nobody ever said, how much does it cost to have my van serviced at my place of business? Never came up. There was more excitement about that you could actually do it that way, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, because he told you about the lost production, or not the lost production, but he told you about what it costs to send it there, $70 an hour. But he didn't talk about the lost production yet. He knows the cost is going to be there to service the vehicle. That just comes, that's part of it. That's part of having the fleet. So it's not only the $70 an hour, it's the lost production as well. And you can minimize both of those.
And that's that's one quick start, for you to get out there. And that's one quick start that I give, people that want to know, how does it pencil? Well, listen, there's several things that you can do right out of the box before you advertise it one time, right?
Yep.
Go be Robert for a while and it'll work out for you.
Ed, you talked to us about trip value. I know that you mentioned 8 now vans. I think I saw that you have a van exclusively now doing just the tire work that's out there. What else is in store for 23? What do you think?
Well, we're doing everything we can to prepare for BEVs, and we have a tire van that we're going out and doing tires, not only for BEVs, but for our fleet customers as well. But when we go, a BEV does not necessarily need to come into service as often. There's 80% less moving parts. And with that, with less moving parts, there's less visits. It's a lot more software updates and then some of the wear items. And when we can eliminate them having to come back to our dealership, because our dealerships are intimidating. People don't want to come to them. And we can eliminate that and enhance that ownership experience. It's just further preparing to take care of our BEVs as they become more widespread in the marketplace.
I think the basis for EV service in the future. I know Ted, you've talked to several people on your panels that have great insight on the future with EVs, and the EV customer expects service in their driveway. That's it. So whatever the scope of EVs are going to be in this country, and who's going to buy them and how big of a fleet it's actually going to be reflective of, there's going to be something, right? So. And the expectation of that customer is wildly differently than the people that you deal with now in your dealership. It just is.
Mark, you told us about your neighbor having, or your person who lives nearby having the Tesla, having it serviced, and you watching that service in their driveway.
And that's how you learn. It was very influential on me to watch this guy never leave his house for 3 years to go to a dealership. I mean, it's happening right in front of your eyes. And if that, I'm not saying that being scared is good, but sometimes being scared is innovative. You know what I mean? And because I think that most manufacturers know, and Ed, you could speak to Ford about this, and I was a Ford dealer, so I'm still in touch with it quite a bit. When you start getting into EVs initially, you're going to be peeling Tesla customers off at some point, right? I mean, they have quite a big market share. In my opinion, Tesla's gotten a little aged looking. So there's going to be some, when there's new model rollout, people are going to be interested in a fresher looking, maybe more innovative vehicle from Ford or Mercedes-Benz or somebody or Audi, all the people that are out there with these things. And then you're going to sell that person the car and give them less expectation on service. I don't know how you're going to do that.
I think we have a better opportunity to give them better service because we have the infrastructure.
Right.
And yes, I love to sell a Tesla customer because I don't have to overcome the obstacles of the range anxiety and all. They've already lived that world. They know how to operate an electric vehicle. And now they don't have to wait for 5 weeks to get in line because the infrastructure is not there. I can roll down to them, or they can come to me, whichever works best for them. Right. So we can enhance the infrastructure of what they've ever had to experience on the Tesla side.
But that affects the sales side too, right? Because that's a closing tool, right? So I mean, you can wrap the whole thing up as a dealership when somebody sits in your dealership and says, "Well, do you come to my house like Tesla did to fix my car?" Right?
Exactly.
Are you going to say no? Because you might lose the sale. Right?
And you're right. They want variety.
Yeah. So it does really have to start from the executive level down, and it has to be absorbed that way because that's the importance of what you're trying to do. You might start to lose sales if you're not going to provide that service.
Absolutely. And if we don't provide it, and a lot's not going to, that's what Robert's out there.
Somebody else will.
Robert will be glad to take your business, guys. There's no doubt about that.
So I got to ask you, Robert, What are you
Yeah,
going to
go
be
ahead.
doing in 23, Robert? What's anything different? Anything, because you've been growing this thing. Congratulations on these last couple of years. What's on
Yep.
the books for next year?
What I look to do is bring on at least 2 apprentices, have them follow me along, get another vehicle in 23, and then basically go in and start actually selling to fleet dealers, the people that are around me, the vendors, like your plumbing, your HVAC, your mechanical places that, they really don't have the time to have that vehicle. Like Ed was saying, you got to have 3 or 4 people's involved. It's a complete rigmarole. No one wants to do it. To look at doing that in 23 to make that a little bit more easy on the customers that are around and to really kind of explode or blow up what we do. Um, I'll go back to the fleet thing just real quick. I run and am networked with a guy that does a mobile oil change business, and that's all he does here in this area in Columbus. And he got this contract one time with a school bus place down in Cincinnati. And we went down there and done 77 school bus oil changes and grease services in 20 hours. Diesel, gasoline. We worked a 16-hour day the first day, went back to the hotel, spent the night, went back at 5 a.m. in the morning because it was in July, done the rest of the vehicles, finished everything up, went back through and checked everything and left. So there's people out there that are doing this, and there's people out there that are doing this type of stuff for the dealership style stuff too, 1 ton and lower. So, and Ed deals with the fleet stuff that's all the way up to the 550s and the 650, the F series. But there's people out there that are doing it. So the dealerships have to get on board and go and grab that money. I mean, I think we're $110 billion a year industry, I think is what the last time I read is what the automotive repair industry is every year in the United States. I mean, there's plenty of money out there for everybody to go get. And every RO is an orange. And it's a matter of how much can you squeeze the orange and what can you actually get out of it, and always ethically making sure that you're only selling what actually needs to be sold. You prep and you show here's what you should budget for. You go through your priorities, and it's very simple. I mean, I've never had to hard sell anybody. Matter of fact, I've almost always been like, you can do it or you don't have to do it, and that's perfectly fine one way or another with me. But here are the things that the vehicle needs at this point in time.
So I'm glad Robert touched on that, because we're talking about, in the big hype in car dealership world right now is, are you using video? Whether you're selling a car, whether you're
Right.
servicing a car, or whatever else. And video certainly sells. There's no question it enhances every aspect of it. But when you're live in person and you show it to them, showing is much better than the video that you showed them in, because there's
Much
still that
better, yeah.
little uncertainty there, but they just watch that part come off of their vehicle. They don't want to see it go back on there. So that's when Robert says, there's no hard sell, because it's seeing's believing, and they don't want to see it go back in, and it becomes an easy transaction.
And I'll also add with that, Ed, that there was one time that I had heard that video actually killed the radio star.
Yeah, that's true.
Hey, Robert, I've seen you've increased your
That is true.
visibility on LinkedIn. I see, Robert, you've got a newsletter
Yes.
now. You got a couple things. Share with us real quick, because your visibility is growing and growing quickly.
Sure.
How do we access that?
You can go to my LinkedIn profile. You can go there, and at the pinned article was the latest one that I've got.
Okay.
There will be a couple that's going to be upcoming on MPIs,
Okay.
why they're important, what you can do with them, and especially like Ed was saying, use your tools. If your dealership doesn't have tablets for the service advisors and for the technicians, I feel you're way behind the 8 ball, and they should all have that technology. They should all be dealing with different vendors that are giving dealerships the tools to go out and do that type of work. When I was at Jaguar and Land Rover, we had tablets. The technicians had tablets. Same thing Ed was saying. Everything was video. You walked around. You did your video walk around the vehicle. A lot of times it was twice. The service writer would do one for their covering of their rear end, and then also the technician would do one too, just to make sure nothing had happened to the vehicle in between coming into the shop. But yeah, it's going to be interesting how 2023 comes about. That newsletter so far, I think I've got like 1,100 subscribers on LinkedIn. I also do a Substack, which is just my name, robertstage.substack.com. And then I'll be doing different writings on both. The last one I did was just on neuroplasticity. I don't just like to do automotive stuff. You know, there's so many different facets to everyone that's on LinkedIn. Everyone's got different likes and hobbies and, you know, things that are outside of work. So like you said, I've been trying to really push visibility of myself, putting myself out there, doing more videos. I was actually just accepted to write and submit articles for the garage section in Motor Age magazine. So that should be coming out in 2023 also. I looked to at least get a couple articles put into that digital publication.
Hey, Robert, when you get your own show, would you remember
Yeah.
us and have us on as guests? You know, Ed and Mark
Absolutely.
and I.
Yeah. That's how the whole thing rolls. It's always on a wave. So yeah, that's perfectly fine. I'll definitely bring people back up.
All right. Well, I'll have to leave it there, everybody. This is the mobile service panel. Amazing information from Robert Stage, Mark Mickens, and Ed Roberts. Gentlemen, I want to wish you and your families a very happy Thanksgiving next week.
Happy Thanksgiving, guys.
Thank you. Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving to you guys.
Happy Thanksgiving, guys.
This is the mobile service panel, everybody, here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.